So welcome to another weekly edit. 2 weekends ago now, by the time this is uploaded, I went to Swanpool for sunrise. It nearly didn't happen. On the way there was absolutely torrential rain. I did consider turning around. Thankfully I didn't. I kept going. Didn't get an amazing sunrise, but it stopped raining, so that was a bonus. I did get some nice light and a few shots I was happy with. I'll stick some video up from that morning. There was some not big waves rolling in, but some nice clean waves rolling in. And yeah, I had a really nice morning in the end, which is a surprise because it was absolutely torrential. So onto the edit itself, I've gone with a shot that I took. It's the last shot of the day, actually. Once the sun was up, the sun did come up eventually. There was, as usual, there was a bank of cloud on the horizon, so I didn't get a particularly spectacular sunrise. But once the sun was up, we had some nice light. And I took this shot, which I'll show you now, as the last shot. And I just like the way the stream was belting out onto the beach, it curving round and out to sea. I purposefully shot this shot wider intentionally, and because one of the things I wanted to show in this video is straightening out converging verticals. So if we look up here, it's not dramatic, and if it was a architectural type shot, then obviously it would be even worse. And here in this scenario, the buildings are quite small, but however, we do have some converging verticals, and that's caused by the curvature of the lens. So if we kind of zoom in, we can see, if I place this building towards a straight edge, the way that we've got this bending, and it's not because I wasn't level with the camera. Camera was level, and you can see it is worse at the edge of the frames when we go in more to the center of the frame and look at, say, these posts. Nowhere near as much bowing out as such. So yeah, we're going to fix that. I don't think it's an amazing shot, but it does demonstrate kind of the point. Did take 2 exposures because the sun was coming up, camera left. So all of this rock area in the stream was in deep shadow. But the beach itself and the buildings were getting blasted by the sun. So I've got 2 shots. This one is a kind of an exposure for the buildings and the sky. And then this second shot is for the foreground. And you can see we've got a bit more detail now in these rocks and the stream itself. So we're going to combine these 2 shots. So I've got them open in Camera Raw, Photoshop. Going to select both images. So I can either do Command A, or where I've got one selected, I can hold Shift down and then press on that one. As always, going to go into Optics first, remove Chromatic Aberration and use the Profile Corrections. And you can see it does a little bit of kind of fixing and takes away a bit of the vignetting, but it doesn't really correct this sort of these buildings that are bowing out. But we're going to fix that. So I've applied the lens corrections to both images. Then I'm going to treat each image separately. So let's go back to my sky exposure, and I'm just going to pull the highlights down a little bit, lift the shadows a little bit. So I'm more focused on looking at this top area because I've got my second exposure for the foreground. I've probably gone a bit far with the highlights. I'm going to lift those a little bit, somewhere like that. Not going to be too fussy at this stage. And then this shot, primarily, I'm not worried about this top area. I'm more focused down here. I'm going to lift the shadows, and you can see we've got loads of detail down there. All the highlights down a little bit. So we've got that shot and that shot. So again, holding Shift and clicking on this one, I'm going to open them both up into Photoshop. So it's going to give me the two files. I'm going to do Command A to select all. So, or you can go into Edit, or is it Select? Sorry, yeah, select all. And then Command C to copy. I'm going to go over across to my other image, and I'm going to do Command V to paste. So now I've got two layers. I've got both of my images in one file now, if you like. So this top layer is my exposure for the foreground. If I, by pressing the little eye icon, I can turn the visibility of that layer off. So if I turn that off, then you see the layer underneath, which is my sky exposure. And in terms of blending these two images together, I'm not going to do anything particularly fancy because it's a really easy one to kind of join. I'm not even going to do like a sky selection or anything like that. Just going to click on the mask tool down here. So I've got a mask. I'm going to take the gradient tool, and I've probably got it the wrong way around, but I'm going to just click and drag. Yeah, I've got it the wrong way around, which is always the way. So where I've got it up here, where I've got it reversed, I just need to untick that. And you can see that's done it straight away. And then I'm just going to play with this mask. So what this line is demonstrating is the black up here, so is solid black. Then we go down to white, and this is a transition. This little bar here is like the feather, so you can move that. If I go closer to the white, you can see it gives me almost, well, there. If I go all the way down, it gives me a solid black line. It's completely taken that feather away. Whereas if I go up towards the black, I get more of a feather. So I'm going to go somewhere like that. I'm not going to be not too worried about how fussy I am with it, because now I'm going to click on the mask and I'm going to press B for brush. I'm going to take a fairly weak brush, 20% opacity. And just here where I've pulled the gradient mask down, it's still a little bit sort of dark here along the edge. So I'm just going to take a brush, going to make sure it's nice and soft. So I've got a 0% hardness. Take a white brush. So I've pressed X to change my color palette to white. And I'm just going to brush these areas up here where I was a little bit sort of sloppy with the gradient mask, just gently like that. So now if I turn this layer, my top layer on and off, you can hopefully see what we've done. We've preserved the top half and we've pulled in some of that detail down the bottom. So that was straightforward enough. So now what I'm going to do is just do some basic edits. So I'm going to do Command Option Shift E, and that gives me, that flattens all of these below layers into a combined layer. So I can turn these layers off. I've basically got a combination of those layers. I'm going to go into Camera Raw, Command Shift A, takes me into Camera Raw, and now I'm just going to do a bit of editing, so I can probably still pull the highlights down a little bit, shadows a little bit more, let's add a bit of contrast in. Let's go to the effects and a bit of texture and clarity. Look like that. Now I'm going to go into my masks tool, take a radial gradient, just going to emphasize this stream a little bit with a very soft radial gradient. So I'm going to push the feather probably, right up to 100%, and just lift the exposure of the stream ever so slightly, because I feel that's quite a key element to sort of draw your eye into the shot. So now I'm going to go into my color mixers, and with my luminance, I'm just going to pull the blues down a little bit, not too much, somewhere like that, just to bring a little bit more color back in the sky. Then I'm going to go into my color, and no, I'm not going to do that. I was going to warm it up a little bit. What I might do is just warm up the foreground a little bit, because we've got very warm tones in the background and we've got very cool tones in the foreground, which was how it was. But I might just kind of balance that out a little bit. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of saturation. So if I go into my mask tool again, create a new mask, take a linear gradient this time. I don't need to be too fussy. Nice, soft linear gradient, something like that. And now with my temperature slider, again, when we're working in the masks, anything that's red is the area that I'm impacting. So I'm not impacting the whole image. I'm just going to warm up the foreground ever so slightly. It is very cool in colour. If I turn that mask on and off, hopefully you'll see it's quite subtle. It's not dramatic, but it just hopefully balances out the image a little bit more. Something like that. So I'm going to OK that. So if I turn this top layer off now, that's where we kind of were once we'd combined the two layers together. That's where we are now with those camera raw edits. So the next step is I'm going to fix those verticals that are kind of, a bit wonky at the moment. And you'll notice that I haven't done any cropping yet, because I don't want to crop the image, then fix the verticals, because in the process of fixing the verticals, I am going to lose some of the image, potentially. So I haven't cropped it at all. Going to make a copy of that layer by Command J to create a layer copy. Just in case I make a mess of it, I can just delete this layer and go back kind of non-destructive. So if I go Command Shift A, that takes me back into Camera Raw. And this is such a easy way of doing it. There's different ways of doing it. You can use the free transform tool. I find this the easiest way to do it. If you go in here, at this bottom here, geometry, you've got a load of options, but on the right hand side you can draw some guides. So press that button there, and then you need to draw at least 2 guides, which I found is all you really need. But what I'm going to do, zoom into the image, I'm holding down the space bar so that I can get my handle come up and I can move the image around. Zoom in a little bit more, and then when I've got where I've got an edge like I've got here that should be upright, I'm going to click and hold down to the edge like that. That's my first guide. You notice the image doesn't actually do anything at this point, because we've only done 1 guide, and that's where you need at least 2 guides. So I've done this one here, and then I'm going to go and do an edge over this side. So we know this building, in theory, if it's been built properly, it should be upright. And take another guide down there. And now it has done something. Probably couldn't see it because we were zoomed in. So if I now go over here to the little eye symbol, that's where we were, and that's where we are. And if you watch the foreground, you can see we have lost some of the image in the process, because essentially what Photoshop has done is it's taken the bottom corners and almost expanded them out. Like if you were doing it with free transform, that's essentially what you would do. So we have lost a little bit, and that's why I didn't crop yet. So that's where we were, and that's where we are now. OK that. So if I turn that layer off, again, that's where we were, that's where we are. And now our buildings are nice and straight. I'm going to do another copy, Command J. I will now do a crop. So take our crop tool. We don't have a horizon line in this shot, but I did level the camera at the time. I'm confident that it's relatively level as a shot. We've just spent some time doing the vertical, so it should be pretty good. So what I'm thinking about with the crop is the sky is not really doing anything. We've got no real cloud. It's pretty blue. It's plain. Foreground wise, if I just cancel that, foreground wise, we've got not a lot going on. You know, these rocks are a bit heavy. So I'm thinking of like a letterbox crop. And I'm thinking this building on the edge here is a bit bright. So I'm going to come in to take that building out. I still want some sky, so I'm going to come up a little bit. And then I'm just going to, yeah. Before I commit, I'm just looking, have I got enough sky? I don't want to go a little bit wider. But I want to lose that building on the right-hand side. What I find with Photoshop is it tries to, you can turn the snapping off, but it tries to snap into position. So sometimes I just get it roughly where I want. And then if I need to nudge it, I just use the arrow keys on the keyboard and I can just nudge it around to where I want it, somewhere like that, I think. And enter. So yeah, I think the only thing that I would do now is press J to get my remove tool. Gonna do Command Option 0 to go to 100%. And I just find this person here a bit distracting because they're blurred due to the length of the exposure. They were just about to go down and do some swimming. They're a lot braver than I am. And their red sort of clothing bag or whatever they've left down here I find a bit distracting. So with the remove tool, I'm just going to paint over. It's such a small area that I expect the remove tool to do a pretty good job straight away. Yeah, boom, done. Command 0 to get back to fill the screen. And there we go. So that's where we were, and that's where we've ended up. One last step. Let's back into camera raw. We haven't done any sharpening. This might surprise you. I might add a slight vignette. Radial gradient. Nice and soft. I'm going to do Option apostrophe to, what have I done? Clicked away. Option X to invert it. Got too much feather, so I'm going to back the feather off. And then just, again, not loads, but a little bit, just to focus the eye in. And then go into the detail panel. Can't remember where my focus point is. It would have been, I think it was shot, F16. So somewhere around here, about a third of the way into the shot. Give me good depth of field from the foreground right through to the back. So I go 100%. Somewhere around here, let's do a bit of sharpening, something like that. And then I'm just going to check my sky. Hold Option key down on the mask and make sure I'm not sharpening that sky area. Apply that, and there we have it. So I'll put a few other shots up from that morning. I've got a few shots I was kind of happy with. I'll put those up at the end. Let me know what you think, and until next time, thank you for watching. Goodbye.